The morning is the architect of the day. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their peace of mind to the chaos of the world, scrolling through emails, checking social media, and reacting to the demands of others before they have even opened their eyes properly. To master the art of emotional independence, we must reclaim these first moments. This is where the ancient Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils, becomes our most potent weapon. When you wake up, before your feet hit the floor, do not reach for your phone. Instead, remain in the stillness of your bed. Visualize the day ahead in vivid detail. Think of the meetings you have to attend, the tasks you need to complete, and the people you will encounter. But now, introduce the element of friction. Imagine that your car breaks down on the way to work, that a colleague treats you with disrespect, that a project you poured your heart into is rejected, or that someone you trust lets you down. Most people avoid these thoughts because they feel negative. However, the Stoic knows that these thoughts are not negative. They are defensive, strategic, and empowering. By visualizing these scenarios, you are not inviting them into your life. You are preparing your nervous system to handle them. When you imagine a difficult person and decide in your mind that, I will remain calm, I will listen with patience, and I will not let their toxicity infect my soul, you are creating a mental blueprint for excellence. This practice is an inoculation against surprise. Anxiety thrives on the unexpected. When we are caught off guard, our emotions take the steering wheel, leading to impulsive reactions, anger, or despair. By pre-solving these problems in the quiet theater of your mind, you neutralize their power. You are effectively telling your subconscious, I have already been here. I have already seen this. I am prepared and I will not be shaken. As you start this habit, you will find that you move through your day with a strange, quiet confidence. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, waiting to see what the world will throw at you. You are a commander standing on the ramparts of a fortress, watching the horizon, ready for any storm. This is the first step in building a sovereign mind. Understanding that while you cannot control what happens to you, you have absolute, total, and terrifying control over how you perceive it. If premeditatio malorum is your defensive shield, the morning audit is your internal compass. Once you have visualized the day's potential trials, you must now turn your gaze inward to align your intentions with your core virtues. This is not a time for mindless reflection. It is a period of intense, strategic self-audit. Many people live their lives in a state of reactive drift, bouncing from one external demand to the next, swayed by the moods of others and entirely disconnected from their own moral center. The Stoic, however, refuses to be a passenger in their own life. In this stage, sit in silence and ask yourself the most difficult questions you can face. Start with your values. If you pride yourself on being a person of integrity, justice, or temperance, ask, where will my integrity be tested today? If you are prone to anger, admit it to yourself. I am likely to encounter someone who will frustrate me today. How will I respond? By acknowledging your weaknesses, you strip them of their ability to catch you by surprise. You are essentially setting rules of engagement for your own mind. You are deciding before the day even begins that no matter how much pressure is applied, you will not sacrifice your character for a fleeting emotional release. This practice forces you to differentiate between what you can control and what is merely noise. A common failure in human life is wasting energy on external outcomes, worrying about whether people will like you, if a project will succeed, or if you will be praised. In your morning audit, consciously let go of these outcomes. Replace them with a focus on your actions. Instead of saying, I need to succeed today, you say, today I will focus on doing my work with excellence, regardless of the feedback I receive. This is the shift from a goal-oriented mindset to a virtue-oriented mindset. When you define your daily mission in terms of your own behavior rather than external results, you become unshakable. Your self-worth is no longer tied to the volatile stock market of public opinion. By conducting this audit every single morning, you create a psychological integrity loop. Throughout the day, whenever you face a difficult decision, the memory of your morning audit acts as an anchor, drawing you back to the person you promised to be. It is the practice of becoming the sovereign of your own consciousness, ensuring that at the end of the day, you can look in the mirror and know that your actions were a manifestation of your will, not a byproduct of your circumstances. After you have fortified your defenses and calibrated your internal compass, you must now expand your perspective to the absolute limit. This is the practice of the view from above, a profound Stoic exercise that serves as a remedy for the toxic narcissism of small concerns. We often fall into the trap of believing that our immediate environment, our cubicle, our household, our digital notifications, our local gossip, is the entire universe. We mistake the tiny ripples of our personal lives for the waves of history. This narrow focus is exactly what creates anxiety, stress, and, eventually, a fragile ego. To practice this, close your eyes and visualize yourself rising above your physical body. See yourself sitting in your room. Then, imagine rising higher, until your house is just a small structure in a neighborhood. Keep ascending. See your city as a grid of lights, then your country as a piece of land on the globe. Move further into the atmosphere until the entire Earth is visible as a vibrant, spinning sphere floating in the vast, silent vacuum of space. From this height, look down at the entirety of humanity. See the millions of people, each with their own struggles, their own fears, their own pride, and their own hidden sorrows. In this cosmic perspective, the argument you had yesterday, the mistake you are terrified of making, or the embarrassment you feel about a public failure, instantly shrinks. You realize that you are a temporary occupant of a very small speck in a vast, indifferent universe. This is not meant to be depressing. It is meant to be liberating. When your problems seem monumental, you are a slave to them. When you realize they are infinitesimal, you become their master. By practicing this every morning, you cultivate a sense of sacred indifference. You begin to understand that while your effort matters, because you are a rational being with a duty to perform, the results of your efforts are part of a much larger chain of cause and effect. You stop taking the world so personally. You stop feeling attacked by life. When you encounter a setback later in the day, you can instantly pull yourself back to this view from above and whisper to yourself, "This, too, is a tiny fragment of a much larger story." This practice grants you a tranquility that the rest of the world will find impossible to replicate because while they are drowning in the details of their own ego, you have already transcended them. You are no longer agitated by the trivial, you are grounded in the monumental. The fourth habit is the deliberate, tactical practice of silence. In our modern era, we are under a constant state of siege by information. From the moment the alarm sounds, the world bombards us with pings, notifications, news cycles, and the opinions of strangers. This noise is the mortal enemy of a high-functioning, disciplined mind. By starting your day with noise, you allow the world to write its own agenda onto your brain. You are effectively handing over the keys to your internal kingdom before your day has even begun. To combat this, the Stoic practices a period of absolute, non-negotiable silence. This is not merely an absence of talking. It is the active creation of a mental vacuum. When you wake up, protect the first 30 to 60 minutes like a fortress. During this time, there is no music, no podcasts, no social media, and no conversation. This silence serves as a powerful filter. When you remove the external static, you begin to hear the frequency of your own reason. You learn to distinguish between the artificial urgency of the outside world and the genuine priorities of your own soul. In this space of silence, your nervous system begins to reset. The cortisol levels that rise when we are constantly plugged in begin to stabilize. Silence provides the cognitive space for deep work. The ability to process complex problems, reflect on your long-term goals, and sharpen your focus. Without this daily silence, your mind becomes fragmented, reactive, and incapable of sustained thought. Think of your mind as a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, the mud never settles. Silence is the act of letting the glass sit still. As the mud, the anxieties, the trivial distractions, the emotional volatility sinks to the bottom, the water becomes clear. You see your life, your responsibilities, and your decisions with a level of clarity that is inaccessible to those who start their day by stirring the pot. By mastering the art of silence, you ensure that when you finally do step out into the world, you are acting from a place of center and clarity, rather than from a place of agitation and distraction. You become a person who moves with purpose, because you have listened to your own voice before listening to the world's noise. The fifth habit is the transition from mere reflection to explicit, written commitment. Stoicism is not an intellectual exercise to be enjoyed in comfort. It is a discipline to be exercised in the arena of life. Many people believe they have good intentions, but intentions without formalization are merely wishes. By the time the afternoon comes, the challenges of the world often erode our morning resolve. This is why the Stoic does not simply hope to be virtuous. They make a formal commitment to it every single day. During this part of your morning, take a physical journal and write down your vows of character. This is not a list of chores or a to-do list. It is a declaration of who you will be. For example, if you know that you often succumb to anger when things do not go your way, write down, "Today I commit to equanimity. When I am provoked, I will count to 5, take a deep breath, and respond with logic rather than fury." If you struggle with the temptation to procrastinate, write, "Today I commit to the task at hand. I will prioritize discipline over comfort, and I will not settle for the easy path when the right path is clear." By externalizing these commitments in ink, you create a psychological contract with yourself. When you hold your thoughts in your head, they are fluid and easily reshaped by stress. When you write them down, they become concrete constraints. This habit serves as an anchor. Later in the day, when the pressure mounts and you feel the urge to compromise, the memory of that morning entry acts as a reminder of your promise. It turns your character into a project that is being actively managed and audited. Furthermore, this practice trains your brain to prioritize excellence. It forces you to define what success actually looks like for your soul, rather than for your ego. When you commit to a virtue, you are essentially establishing the parameters for your behavior. You are no longer living by chance, you are living by design. This daily commitment is the difference between someone who drifts through life and someone who steers it. It is the act of looking at the person you are today and declaring, with absolute certainty, the person you intend to be by the time the sun sets. The sixth habit is the most foundational principle of the Stoic life, the dichotomy of control. Throughout your day, you will be bombarded by stressors, disappointments, and frustrations. Most human suffering stems from a fundamental error in logic, attempting to control things that are entirely outside of our jurisdiction. We lose sleep over the opinions of others, we grow bitter over the past, and we experience profound anxiety over future outcomes that are, quite literally, none of our business. The morning dichotomy audit is the tactical solution to this. As you begin your day mentally, or better yet, in your journal, sort your list of concerns into 2 distinct columns: things you can control and things you cannot control. The external, outside control the behavior of your boss, the outcome of a project, the traffic, the weather, the economy, or what people say about you behind your back. The internal, inside control your thoughts, your actions, your effort, your response to adversity, and your commitment to your personal principles. The Stoic exercise here is radical. You must decide before stepping out of your door that you will surrender your attachment to the first column. You acknowledge that these things are indifferent to your character. You do not ignore them, but you stop tying your emotional state to them. If you work hard on a proposal and it is rejected, you do not suffer because you recognize that the rejection was outside your control. Your effort was the only thing that mattered, and you provided that in full. This shift acts as an emotional armor. When you stop trying to wrestle with the uncontrollable, you free up an immense amount of mental energy. You become a person of limitless presence. You are no longer waiting for the world to conform to your desires. Instead, you are constantly focused on how you are conforming to your own excellence. By defining this boundary every morning, you immunize yourself against 90% of the daily stressors that paralyze ordinary people. You stop being a reactive creature, governed by the turbulence of external events, and you become a proactive force, governed entirely by your own clear, reasoned, and sovereign will. The seventh habit is the cultivation of amor fati, or the love of fate. While the dichotomy of control helps you distinguish between what you can and cannot change, amor fati takes it a step further. It teaches you to embrace reality exactly as it unfolds, even when it is painful, inconvenient, or frustrating. Most people spend their lives in a state of friction against reality, constantly complaining, "Why is this happening to me?" or "This shouldn't be like this." This resistance is the primary source of human misery. The Stoic, however, views every event, whether a flat tire, a missed promotion, or a difficult conversation, not as a tragedy to be avoided, but as raw material for their character. When you start your day with the mindset of amor fati, you are effectively saying, "Whatever happens today, I will not just tolerate it, I will use it." If you encounter an obstacle, you recognize that it is a test designed specifically for you. If you are frustrated by a slow-moving queue, you practice patience. If you are criticized by a peer, you practice humility and self-analysis. If you are faced with a sudden loss, you practice fortitude. By choosing to love your fate, you turn the table on the universe. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, waiting for life to go your way. You are a master of transformation, capable of extracting value from every moment. This habit eliminates the wasted energy of what-if scenarios. You stop wishing for a different reality and start engaging with the one you have, with full intensity. It transforms you into a person of unshakable resilience. When you stop fearing bad luck and start seeing every event as a necessary component of your growth, you gain an unbreakable energy. You stop feeling attacked by the world and start feeling empowered by it. You move through your day with an aggressive positivity that refuses to be defeated by anything, because you have already decided that everything that happens is exactly what should be happening. The eighth habit is the alignment of your daily actions with the concept of duty. The Stoics viewed human beings as social animals, intended by nature to work in concert with one another, much like the hands, feet, or eyes work together to serve the body. In our hyper-individualistic society, we often view work as a transactional pursuit, a means to earn money or acquire status. The Stoic, however, understands that true fulfillment comes only when our work is tethered to a purpose that transcends the self. Each morning, before you dive into your professional tasks, ask yourself, how does my work contribute to the collective good? This is not just a high-minded philosophical ideal, it is a pragmatic tool for sustaining focus. When you work solely for money or ego, you will eventually burn out because your motivation is fragile and dependent on external validation. When you work for duty, your motivation becomes an internal duty to your function. Whether you are a teacher, an engineer, a parent, or an artist, you have a specific role that provides value to the community. By framing your day as a mission of service, you insulate yourself against the drudgery of routine tasks. A mundane email is no longer just a chore. It is a necessary action to facilitate communication and progress for your team. A difficult meeting is no longer a personal trial. It is an opportunity to practice diplomacy and clarity for the sake of the project. This shift creates a sense of dignified labor. You stop feeling like a cog in a machine and start acting like a vital component of a larger organism. This habit also provides a safeguard against procrastination. If you know that your work is essential to the well-being of others, it becomes much harder to justify laziness or distraction. You realize that your contribution matters, and that the quality of your output is a matter of integrity. By starting each day by acknowledging your role in the lives of others, you transform your daily grind into a meaningful pursuit. You become a person who does not just put in the time, but a person who fulfills their purpose with precision, dedication, and a clear understanding of why your presence in the world is both necessary and impactful. The ninth habit is the structured practice of the morning journal. While many people keep journals to record their feelings or document their day, the Stoic journal is a strategic instrument designed for surgical self-improvement. It is not a place for aimless venting. It is a laboratory for your mind. If you do not write down your goals, your fears, and your principles, you are effectively operating without a map. By the time the complexity of the afternoon hits, the intentions you held at 7 a.m. will have been eroded by the friction of life. Your journal is your operating system. To use it effectively, follow this three-tiered approach. The extraction. First, offload the noise. Write down the anxieties or tasks that are cluttering your mind. Once they are on paper, they no longer need to occupy your working memory. The correction. Reflect on your recent behavior. Where did you fail yesterday? Did you lose your temper? Were you lazy? Identify the error not to punish yourself, but to analyze the root cause. This is the debugging phase of your character. The projection. Finally, set your intent for the day. Write down exactly how you will approach your most difficult task or your most challenging person. Be specific. Instead of "I will be patient," write, "When my colleague challenges my authority in the meeting, I will respond with a question rather than a defensive rebuttal." This written discipline creates a feedback loop. By tracking your daily commitments, you transform your life into a measurable data set. When you see your progress written down, the days you held your cool, the days you stayed focused despite the odds, you build a self-sustaining momentum. You stop guessing if you are improving. You have the evidence in your own handwriting. The act of writing anchors your abstract thoughts into reality, ensuring that your philosophy is not just a collection of nice ideas, but a concrete framework that you inhabit every single day. The 10th and final habit is the threshold moment. The precise point of transition where the sanctuary of your morning preparation meets the reality of the arena. After you have completed your premeditatio malorum, aligned your values, widened your perspective, cultivated silence, and documented your mission, you are standing at the edge of the world. The tendency for most is to slide into the day with hesitation or to drag the remnants of their sleepiness into their tasks. The Stoic, however, treats this moment as a conscious, ceremonial departure. Before you step out your door or engage with the first task of your professional day, perform this final lock-in. Physically pause. Take a deep, intentional breath. This is the moment you transition from the architect of your day to the executor. Remind yourself with absolute authority, "I have built my fortress. I am ready. I have anticipated the friction, defined my character, and committed to my duty. The chaos of the world cannot touch my core unless I allow it. I go now not to react but to act." This ritual is the final seal on your discipline. It prevents you from carrying the weight of your internal work as a burden. Instead, it turns it into the fuel for your outward actions. By making this transition deliberate, you ensure that you don't drift into your day, you launch into it. You move into the world with a sense of sovereign command, fully aware that no matter the storms you encounter, you are the master of your own internal weather. The conclusion, the sovereign mind. You have now built the 10-part framework of a Stoic morning. Remember, these habits are not meant to be a rigid cage but a set of keys. You are not practicing them to become a statue of marble, but to become a human being capable of true, unshakable excellence. Stoicism is the philosophy of the arena. It is meant to be tested, scratched, and hardened by the realities of life. As you integrate these habits, you will notice that the world around you stays exactly the same, but you are fundamentally transformed. You no longer fear the day, you look forward to it as a grand opportunity to demonstrate your strength, your wisdom, and your humanity. The goal of this discipline is simple: to reach the end of your life, and the end of every single day, knowing that you lived in accordance with your highest potential. You have taken the first step toward the most important achievement of your existence: the creation of a sovereign mind.